this is the room. Oh, sorry. This is in here. Check. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. In this room. could be a tad louder. How's that? And I can even speak up a little bit. So tonight, we're going to do something a little bit different than we normally would. But before we do that, why don't we start with a song? So if everyone will turn to page 128 in your prayer books, we have the words of Psalm 133, also known as Hine Matov U'Manayim Shevedachim Gam Yachad. So how good it is and how pleasant it is for all of us to be able to be here together with impending storms on the way. Thank you all for braving the weather. Thank you all at home for joining us if you couldn't be here tonight. So the first part is the Hebrew, the second part is some English, and you're going to repeat after me. Make sense? All right. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. There are some claps. Hine matov, clap, clap. U'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. We'll do it again. Hine matov, clap, clap. U'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. All right, repeat after me. How good it is. How sweet it is. Now this part we do together. To be together on this day. To be together on this day. To be together on this day. How good it is. How sweet it is. To be together on this day. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Repeat after me. How good it is. How sweet it is. To be together on this day. How good it is. How sweet it is. To be together on this day. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. So tonight into tomorrow, we celebrate Shabbat. Now tomorrow night, does anyone know what happens? So there's a holiday, Shavuot, or Shavuos, as I grew up hearing. So Shavuot is a big holiday that falls at an unfortunate time in the year, right? It's this great holiday, and everyone is on summer break, and no one is thinking about coming to temple or anything like that. So we decided that we would celebrate tonight. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of Shabbat. We're going to do a little bit of Shavuot. That way, everyone gets a little bit of something, and we get to celebrate the Torah, actually. All right, sound good? All right. So let's jump right in. So we're going to welcome the Sabbath bride on page 138 with the words of the Chadodi. They used to go outside and they would face the mountains outside of town, and they would wait and look for the bride to come in. Hopefully they did not have tropical storms on the way. It would not be a very fun endeavor tonight. The Chadodi. Lechad שבת תחילה לך דודי לגרש קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לגרש קלה בני שבת נקבלה. On the top of the next page, verse 5. Hitoreri, kiva oreku miori, yori, yori, shir, daveri, kivod Adonai alayich, nigla lecha dodi, ligerat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela, lecha di, ligerat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. So just at a wedding, just like at a wedding, as we welcome the Sabbath bride, we rise, if we're able, and face the entrance to our sanctuary or to our home or the room that we're in, as we welcome Shabbat. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, toch emunei al-segula, boi chala, lecha dodi, ligerat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi, ligerat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. So this first part of our Shabbat service is also called Kabbalat Panim. It's where we meet Shabbat. It's not that we're just waiting for Shabbat, but it's the idea that we actually face-to-face meet Shabbat as we welcome Shabbat in. And each one of the days gets its own psalm. A psalm is just a song. It's a fancy, fancy name that most of my students cannot pronounce. But it's just a song dedicated to that day of the week. And the song for Shabbat is Psalm 92. It's on page 140. So it starts on the third line. The first three lines just say, a psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor shir liyom Shabbat. Let's sing a song for Shabbat. And on line 3 we get the words, Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It's good to give thanks to God. If anyone wants to share something that they're grateful for, we'll have an opportunity in just a minute. For those of you watching or participating at home, if you have anything that you would like to share with us or share with everyone that you're grateful for this week, please write it into the chat, and Mike will be waiting for it. Line 3. We sing Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. ולזמר לשמך העליון. טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון. טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, להגיד בבוקר whole thing. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ולזמר ולזמר לשמך העליון, טוב להודות לאדוני. Would anyone like to share something that they're grateful for? Please.
I'm grateful that my husband is here with me tonight, and that after losing my credit card for a week, it was found.
Oh,
That's really a big deal.
please.
I'm grateful that my mother, who's been sick for a couple of weeks with COVID, has recovered and tested negative enough times that next week
Should be at the bat mitzvah. Testing negative for COVID and also for getting to be at the bat mitzvah. Beautiful. Please.
I've been grateful. It's our anniversary this week. And we're married for 64 years.
64? Oh. Mazel tov, mazel tov.
I'm grateful to welcome you to Rabbi Brevard.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm very grateful as well. Thank you. Anybody else? Mike, do we have anybody at home? Oh, please.
I'm grateful that the good is already there.
I like that a lot. Glad that the good is already there. All right, sometimes we just need to go and find it
Or see it.
or see it.
We have one comment. It's gone, it was retracted.
Okay. If anyone at home has anything they want to share, they can share it with the chat. Oh, we had a comment, but it was retracted. Don't keep all the good stuff to yourselves. Oh. לחיים בבוקר חסדך, לחיים בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני. And on page 142, we have the words of Shalom Aleichem as we not only welcome in the bride of Shabbat, but we also welcome in the angels of Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharei, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch. We say, come in, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch. And we ask him to bless us with peace. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch. And Seitchem L'Shalom, leave in peace. Seitchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For those of you who are here, when you came in tonight, did you get a piece of paper? Oh, okay. So we're going to turn back for a second, and we'll say at least the blessing for the candles. And I'd like to invite up next week's Bat Mitzvah. Jane, you want to come up? the blessing can be found on page 120. And on our song sheets, we have the words for light these lights as they light these lights. Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear our prayer to... We got more songs, don't worry. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say amen. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say amen.
We're halfway there.
Almost. Here, you ready?
No, we don't.
Candles have the wax way to the top, and that's why it's not working.
Okay, now we gather the light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Beautiful, thank you. Let me sing the blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you, thank you. Not so bad, right? You're telling me. You're telling me. It's a little bit sad. There are more pics where this one came from, though. Do you? Jane's been learning how to play the guitar for the last couple months. 2 years? Last 2 years. But so she noticed that I only have one guitar pick. I'm going to be very careful with it tonight. So we continue with our service. We're on page 146. With the words of the Baruch Hu. The Baruch Hu is very much like it's like an opening statement, if you will. It says, or it asks the question, are you ready to pray? And the congregation responds, we're ready to pray. And if they're not, then maybe we don't start. You know, sometimes you go to play, sometimes you go to pray, and you're just not, your heart's not in it, right? So we throw down this question, and hopefully everyone responds in the affirmative. But we rise for the Baruch Hu, if you're able. You know what? It's that kind of night. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. Let's read together on the bottom of the next page. Ooh. Let's read together. You know what? Let's read on page 149. 69. Let's read on page 100 and... The page number is missing from this. It's okay. Let's read page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain of the border of light. Still we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we turn back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hamari v'aravi. So one of the melodies for the Shema that the kids in the religious school actually know was written by a secular Israeli rock star. We'll call him a rock star. He was. He had very good hair. But a melody for the Shema, which some people will still call the watchword of our faith, the most important single sentence or phrase that talks about Judaism. And it was written by someone who, by definition, did not in any way feel that Judaism was his core, right? So it's the modern Israeli predicament, right? Secularism mixed with this identity of being Jewish. So he was Jewish, but he wasn't the kind of Jewish that walks around the streets of Jerusalem, perhaps. And he recorded this, and there was even a music video. If you search really hard on YouTube, you can find it. But what does that mean for us, right? And what does it mean for our everyday? Where we feel this pull from two different directions, right? What's our identity and who are we? Do we say that we're Jewish first? Do we say that we're human beings first? What do we say? And sometimes that answer may be different from day to day, and that's okay. The words of the Shema have been uttered for more than 3,200 years, consistently, passing down all the way through the centuries. It is possibly the oldest and longest that any people have uttered such a phrase. If you're able and you're willing to close your eyes, why don't we take just a second. Just take a deep breath. And let's think about what that looks like. All those people from generation to generation. Just passing down those words. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Let's take one more deep breath. And if you can, relax your shoulders a little bit. And let's take one more deep breath. And as we do, this weekend of all weekends, let's think about what it means to be connected to our past. Connected to our tradition. We're on page 152 and 153. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vahem. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vahem. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. So we had some people doing the sign language for the Shema. It's beautiful. Okay. I've been enjoying the move up here, slowly. The guitar, not so much. It's okay. It'll get used to it. It's the humidity plus the temperature change. So this room just changed degrees by 10 degrees about. Changed temperature by 10 degrees. And the guitar is just letting me know that it's not happy about it, but that it's going to go adjust. There we go. Let's read together on page 157. At the very top, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land. The promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. On the next page, we have the words of the Michamocha. How many days ago was Passover? 49. So 50 days ago, this is the song that they sang on the shores of the sea. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, norati lo dosei fele, norati lo dosei fele.
מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה לי ענו ואמרו, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יא לי 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 la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 la. And on page 160. So what's on page 160? Hashkivenu. And what's on page 162? And what's the difference between the two prayers? They are on two different pages, that is correct. One is longer and starts with an H, yes. So, Hashkivenu is the Jewish equivalent of now I lay me down to sleep. In fact, it's possibly where may I lay me down to sleep came from. I know, it's scandalous. Page 162 are the words of Vishamru. What?
That's talking about observing the Shabbat.
It's talking about observing, but also, it's not just observe, it's to guard. Yes, it's the same word that we have in Lechadodi. We say shamor v'zachor, that you should guard, and you should also remember. It's talking about the Sabbath day. And Hashkivenu says, lay me down to sleep, and talks about the innate fears that we have at night. And so we ask that God shelters us with a Sukkot Shalom, a dwelling place of peace, so that maybe we get a good night's sleep. What's the connection between the two? So God is the connection. God is always a good connection, good at bringing things together. Why do you think that the rabbis put the two prayers next to each other like this? I know, I'm asking hard, difficult questions this late on a Friday.
When you sleep and you wake up, it's the Shabbat.
So, it's true. Everything is so much easier in the morning when the sun comes out, right? It's so much easier to be positive. It's so much easier for us to have a positive outlook, a good outlook, to be happy. And it's very easy at night for us to become scared and afraid. Now, the Shabbat is supposed to be this thing that is so special that we hope one day that the entire world will forever be like this. It's almost like the morning of our days, if that makes sense, right? The sunrise of our days is what Shabbat is supposed to be like. And so if we can only make it through the nights, bli pachad, without fear, then maybe the sun comes up tomorrow and it is eternally perfect. It's not such a bad idea, right? ושאמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושאמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת,
לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושאמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית olam. So we've reached the Amidah, the great standing prayer. Traditionally, it's done silently. We do it together in the morning out loud. In the evening, traditionally, it's silent. So I'm going to say that tonight, why don't we try it silently, but we'll start together, all right? The first statement in the Amidah is Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, Ufi Agiti Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. And it's really just, it's called the Peticha. It's called like an opening statement. And then everything that comes next, that's like the juicy stuff. So if you're willing, if you're able, please rise. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Sfata Tifta. Na 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 Ofi Yagid. Ofi Yagid Tehilatecha. Ananana Donai Ananana Sfatai Tiftach Ananana Ofiagi Ofiagi Tehilatecha Ananana Donai Ananana Sfatai Tiftach Ananana Ofiagi Ofiagi Tehilatecha Ananana Donai Ananana Sfatai Tiftach Ananana Ofiagi Ofiagi Tehilatecha. The Amidah continues through page 180. When you're comfortable and you're finished, you may sit down. 180. $180. I promise. I promise. So it says Shalom is the last piece in the Amidah on the bottom of page 180.
We're on page 180 at the bottom. Ose shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Amen. Ose shalom imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Amen. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 Ose shalom imroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen, ve'imru amen, ve'imru amen, ve'imru amen. For those of you at home, we're in just a few minutes going to be joining together in the Misha Berach, the prayer for healing. If there's the name of someone that you want to mention that we can all pray for their healing together, please put their name in the chat box. For everyone in the room, you can give names later. We're almost there. Shavuot. Does anyone know? I need to be better at it, but I need to make sure that anyone who speaks, that I either repeat what they say or I run a mic over to them. But does anyone know what's Shavuot? What is it? Yes. We received the Torah. What does that mean?
You accepted the responsibility.
Oh, good word.
I'm not sure that's the word I want, that's the one that came up. To accept what God was giving us.
So we accepted the responsibility to take what God had given us. Yes?
Do and we will learn.
Ah. Yes. So I'll tell you a story before we get to the heavy duty stuff, okay? Traditionally, what happens during Shavuot is we read from the 10 Commandments, which you would think is very short and is very much not. And so it requires me to do a lot of speed reading in Hebrew, which we're going to see how I do in a second. But I can go very fast. I learned that I can go very fast. People get very tired standing. You're supposed to traditionally stand when the commandments are read, and if you stand for too long, people start to throw tomatoes at you and things. So here, I'm going to read exactly what it says. Let's see. So there's the story of the picture being painted in the Torah. Right? The Jews are wandering through the desert. We say Jews, but actually it's not true. So the Israelites are wandering through the desert. Jews did not happen for a while later, a big while later, actually. So the Israelites are wandering through the desert. They had really bad compasses and no GPS, right? The desert's not that big, so if that many people got lost for that amount of time in there, something had to be going on. No one wanted to ask for directions. And finally, they get to this mountain. Now, what does the mountain look like? It looks like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, is kind of the way it's described, right? With lights and with clouds and with fire and like all of these different things. And we receive the Torah. Now, in History of the World, Mel Brooks, right? If some of you remember the scene, comes down the mountain with 3 tablets, and he drops one, 10 commandments, right? So there's Moses, and Moses comes down the mountain with the tablets and looks down, and what's going on down below? The golden calf. And so he takes the tablets, and what happened? And he smashes them into a gazillion pieces. Now, who wrote the first 2 tablets? So God did. It says it was written with the finger of God. I don't know what that means, but it's very terrifying, and I don't probably want to know, right? But we get the idea that God's self, wrote those tablets. And they took all the little pieces and they put them inside of the Ark of the Covenant. And if you've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know that what God did was a big deal, right? Those pieces were so special that they carried them around until the Ark went into hiding much later. And then Moses goes back up on the mountain and comes down with more tablets, right? Slightly different than the first kind, but comes down with 10 more commandments. And we still use them. They are also the foundation of the Western legal system, right? It's big stuff. It says in the Talmud, it's probably my favorite story. It's called Har Hagigit, but they describe the setting by which the Jews accepted the Torah. Because the question that I have to ask all of you is, why would we want it? And it's not an original question. It's a question the rabbis have been asking it for thousands of years. Like, why would anyone want this? Why would you take upon yourself all of these laws and rules and dietary things? Why would you want it? Miracles? They had seen the miracles. So it says that they saw the thunder and they heard the lightning. Whatever was going on at Mount Sinai was big stuff. It was big stuff. And it was life-changing. And it was, by definition, the first big event of the Jewish people, of what would become the Jewish people. It says that out of Egypt left all these Israelites, right? These people who came from Jacob's descendants, right, in Egypt. And there was also this other group of people with them called the mixed multitude, right? All these people left. It wasn't just Israelites. All these people left. They had enough of Egypt and they wanted something different, something better. But after Mount Sinai, they're a people all of a sudden, right? They become Am Kadosh. They become the holy people, God's chosen people, as is sometimes described. So it says that God told the people not to come near the mountain, right? Moses told the people, don't go anywhere near this mountain. If you do, you shall surely die, even to let a hand touch it. And it says that God took the mountain and held it upside down over the people and said, do you want the Torah? And the implication was that if you don't say yes, you're going to drop the mountain on them. So it's a joke, but it's not a joke, right? When God, as Don Corleone, right, comes and says that he has an offer that he wants to make you, you have to accept it. So why for thousands of years now do we still take on this responsibility, right? Why do we still keep it? Why is it so important to us? Because it's good? Okay, that's a good answer. Because it's good. And I can't answer for all of you, right? We all have our different, yeah, please.
To me, it gives order to your life.
It gives order to your life. Please, Terry.
It gives structure and a sense of safety.
It gives you structure and a sense of safety. Anybody else? I don't know. The answer for me is honestly continuity, right? What I said before the Shema is a big deal for me. That 3,200 years worth of people have been saying the same words, passing down the same stories, not knowing why they eat cheesecake today, or tomorrow. Does anybody know? There's absolutely no one has a good reason why we eat cheesecake, why it's a dairy holiday. There are some things that the rabbis have put down. I'm not buying any of it. Something smelled like milk at some point and somebody jumped on the bandwagon. But it's these kinds of things, right? It's these kinds of little bits of our tradition that they still make us a people. They still connect all of us. And connection is not the worst thing. So for the reading of the commandments, which I will do as fast as I possibly can, I promise, we have to rise. We have to take the Torah from the ark. We're on page 364, I believe. Oh. Does somebody want to come and grab the Torah for me? Actually be, please. I'm just now realizing that I can't take out the Torah and also walk with it. I know. Let's use the one right here. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adoneinu Ado Shemo. You take a walk? You walk around the room? Lecha Adonai Agedolav Yagevurav Hatiferet Ve'anetzach Ve'hachol Ki chol b'shamayim uvaret Ki chol b'shamayim uvaret Lecha Adonai hamamlacha Ve'avnit na'aseh lechol erut Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kosho. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I know that I said we rise for the commandments. If you're not comfortable standing, please be seated. You got it? Perfect. Thank you. There are a few places in the Torah that are, thank you, very easy to find. the commandments are one of them. Thank you. There we go. A few places in the Torah, the writing, the script becomes different, and it's written with big spaces, so we can see the different phrasing. It happens that way where we came from Micha Mocha. The Song of the Sea is written very, very differently. It's written like poetry. This is just broken up into a whole lot of little sections. If you're interested afterwards, come on and take a look. Or if you want now, you can come take a look. It's okay. If I say the blessing, right, everyone repeat back your part. So I say, Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Notein HaTorah. מדבר אלוהים את כל הדברים האלה לאמור. אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך אשר הוצאתיך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים לא יחיה לך עליכם אחרים על פניי לא תישא לך פסל וכל תמונה אשר בשמיים ממעל ואשר בארץ מתחת ואשר במים מתחת לארץ לא תשתחווה לכם ולא תעבד כי אנוכי אדוני אלוהיכם אלקנה פוקד עוון אבות על בנים השלישים על רבעים לשונאי ועושה חסד לאלפים לאוהבי ולשומרי מצוותיי לא תישא את שם אדוני אלוהיך לשווא, כי לא ינקה אדוני את אשר יישא את שמו לשווא. זכור את יום השבת לקודשו, ששת ימים תעבוד ועשית כל מלאכתך, ויום השביעי שבת לאדוני אלוהיך. לא תישא כל מלאכה אתה ובנך וביתך עבדך ואמתך ובהמתך וגרך אשר בשעריך כי עשית ימים עושה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ את הים ואת כל אשר בם וינח ביום השביעי על כן בירך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו כבד את אביך ואת אמך למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך לא תרצח לא תנאף לא תגנוב לא תענה ברעך את שקר לא חכמוד בית רעך, לא תחמוד אשת רעך, ועבדו ואמתו ושורו וחמורו, וכל אשר לרעך. It's fast enough, yeah? ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת האמת וחיי... תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. Is it fast enough? Is it good? So with the Torah still before us, we turn to page 371 for the words of the Mishaberach. You may be seated. So this Shabbat, we think of Ben and Irene Abramowitz, Sharon Arnold, Bennett Cannon, Vinnie Balduin, Elaine Berkman, Jack Cassis, Carl Erickson, Rispa Corley, Monica Fishkin, Celia Grossman, Kim Hill, Bob Holtzapfel, Diana Holtzman, Trudy Horkin, David Kay, Nat Kay, Deborah Kelly, Anna Khan, Fran Crane, Robert Kraling, Diana Lando, Lori Licker, Sandy McInvale, Alhadrina Patton, Marcus, Sylvia Marsh, Cheryl Mendelson, Forrest Miles, Glenn Miller, Will Rath, Stuart Rossinger, Alan Schofield, Kelsey Sieber, Ann Swar, Sarah Jane Victor, Arthur Weinberger, Doris Weintraub, and Joanne Zbore, as well as,
Can you repeat these names for me?
sure,
Susan Zoller,
Susan Zoller,
Lori Carl,
Lori Carl,
Ilya Kaplan,
Ilya Kaplan,
Kate Morris,
Kate Morris,
Robin Mabel,
Robin Mabel,
Deb Mabel,
Deb Mabel,
Mara and Nate Glazier,
Mara and Nate Glazier,
Dr. David Lober,
Dr. David Lober,
and the Zeig family.
and the Zeig family.
Oh, excuse me, a couple more. Karen Manuel
Karen Manuel
and Tina Gutierrez.
and Tina Gutierrez, please.
Barry Miles, son of Forrest and Carol Miles.
Thank you.
Shelby Wilson. Laura Del Valle, Steve Barnes, and my cousin Andy Woodwell.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? We're on page 371. We pray for healing at the bottom. Mi sheberach avotenu mikol habracha leimotein. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mikol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Amen. Holly, would you help me for a sec? You're going to help me get the tour dressed?
Oh.
Yeah? There we go. You good? So as we begin to conclude our service and return the Torah to the ark, if you're able, I invite you to please rise. Beautiful. Oh, thank you, Joy. Let me open the curtain.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ויד משה. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותומך מאושר דרכיך, דרכי נועם וחותרותיך. שלום השיבנו אדוני די אליך, ונשובה, ונשובה. The Aleinu can be found on page 586. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצאים ולאישי, שלא שנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך. On page 591, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. If you're observing a yard site this Shabbat, please remain standing. Thank you. Our thoughts turn now to our loved ones who were taken from us either at this time in years past or in the recent weeks. The Shabbat, during the period of Shloshim, we remember Edward Lack, beloved father of Jonathan, father-in-law of a religious school principal, Donna, grandfather of Samuel and Benjamin, Bernard Zeich, beloved brother of Skippy Lober, uncle of Penny Marcus, great-uncle of Amber Marcus. Bernard leaves his wife, Marion, and son, Nathaniel. And on the occasion of yard sites, we remember Frida Einhorn, Fanny Fishkin, Ernestine Glick, Leonard Goldstein, Aaron Neerman, Margaret Roth, Saul Siegel, Gerald Sonis, Regina Bellowitz, and taken from the plaques, Herbert Gross, Sylvia Pincus, Sadie Rosenberg, Hyman Spielvogel, Sidney A. Vera, Alberta D. Wentz. If you'd like to mention the name of someone who I haven't mentioned, please. For those mentioned, those names that we mentioned, and for those who have no one left to mention their names, we rise together as one kahal, as one community. The words of the Kaddish can be found on page 598. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yalma divrach hirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'gala v'zman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'l'olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei d'kudisha b'richu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, tamiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya,
v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Please remain standing. We turn back to page 123 for the words of the Kiddush. For everyone here, after we finish, we'll go outside and we have some cups for everyone. But for all of you at home, we sing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila le'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziad Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashab. L'chaim. Oh, l'chaim. You may be seated. You may be seated. If you turn back to the song sheet that you got as you came in, and Mr. President, do we have some announcements? Always announcements.
Well, the first announcement is the obvious. It may have seemed like a very long preamble because it is, or it has been. I think if you remember, it was probably a year ago we had a conversation. And what I remember is you couldn't figure out why I had a Southern accent.
That is true.
Yes.
I've met your father.
That's true. And years seem strange now because a year now seems like forever with all that goes on. But anyway, welcome from the congregation. We're glad you're here. Next week, as you can see in the back of the room, we have a bat mitzvah. It's going to be Jane Williams' bat mitzvah on Saturday, June 11th. Starts at 10 o'clock, and it's open to the entire congregation. So we hope to see you there. There is no Bagels and Bible this week. We'll start up again next week. And, of course, regular services on Friday night. Weather's not going to be good out there, I think, the rest of the weekend. So everybody be careful. Take it easy. We don't want anybody to get hurt at this point. So thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Do you have a copy of that sheet? We're going to see. I know the words. We're going to see what other, I know them in the right order. All right. In honor of Shavuot. All right, at the bottom of the page. So I can take care of all of the verses and all of the words that are in those if you will help me with the chorus. Can we do that? All right. It goes like this. Well, there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. We threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. You got it? 'Cause there were 613 commandments that... There we go. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes.
Because the Torah was much too long to describe to all the Jews. Our God decided to write 10 commandments that said the don'ts and do's. Every commandment talked about the way life ought to live. When we work or play, cook or clean, borrow, take or cause there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. As we stood at the bottom of the mountain and listened to Moshe, he asked how many wanted the Torah, and a bunch of us said, okay. He thought about the way life was and the way life ought to be. Without the Torah, we would have been lost and stuck with idolatry, cause there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. So when it's time to celebrate Chag HaShavuot, we all rejoice cause the Torah's ours, study, teach, and quote. Had we not made the promise to be chosen and the Jews, there wouldn't be a people called the Jews, cause there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. The 10 commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. Da, 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 da. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Chag Sameach.